right.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Green Industry Podcast. My special guest today is Alberti from Boca Raton. I heard him on Willie Rodriguez with Willie and Eddie, and I was like, I got to get him on my podcast. So here we are. What's up?
What's up, man? I appreciate you having me on today. It's an honor and a privilege to be on your podcast today. I appreciate you making time for this.
Yeah, totally. Well, I figured if you're hanging out with Willie and Eddie and those folks over at A's Ornamental, you got to be a good guy.
It gotta be, right? Somehow, some way, make good connections.
Yeah, and I try not to watch too much social media. Been trying to just like watch zero actually is my goal and just create content and serve my customers. But I did click on a couple of your stories and it looked like you were at that VuCon event. I had some friends that were down there. Tell me about that down in Miami.
VuCon, let me tell you something. VuCon is an event. As you know, it's a Christian event where we go worship Christ, Jesus Christ, and that was my first event.
Hmm.
And it was so impactful seeing so many people in there, praising the Lord in there, and just in forgiveness and grace and mercy, for thankfulness and gratitude. It was an amazing event. Like I still have the energy, the impact from that event, and I'm
Hmm.
still processing everything. I had breakthroughs. I had a breakthrough during that event. It was just something else, and I thought I'll never be. I thought it was something I was just showing up to, and come to behold, I left with a breakthrough that the Holy Spirit just came into me, and it's still driving me to where I'm at today.
Cool. Yeah, I have a friend, Anna Gonzalez. She actually just got married, so I'm not sure how to pronounce her new last name, but she goes to that every year. So I was watching her story, and then I was watching your story, and it seemed like a good event. So you mentioned you had a breakthrough. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, let me tell you. So during the event, the last day of the event, it was there's a room called the prayer room.
Hmm.
In that room, you go in there, and you invite the Holy Spirit, and so I go in there. So immediately I'm kind of aware of my self protections a lot. Like it could be confusion, it can be from overjoyous, and I walked in and I seen the energy in the room, the spirit in the room, and immediately something came up to like deflect what was going on. So I had to talk, had immediate talk with myself, and I was like, listen, we need to do an invitation to the Holy Spirit. So I sit down in the third row. I sat down at the. I'm so glad you're talking about this. This is wild. And I sit down in the third row. I sit down, and I sit there, and I stay in stillness and quiet. I'm in stillness and quiet, and I'm inviting my spirituality in there. So I'm inviting in the Holy Spirit, and then it opens up to, and it tells me to open up, in my mind, the mind tells me to open up to Romans 8, chapter 38, where it talks about nothing can, deviate us from the love of God. No people, no places, no things, none of that stuff can get in between of us and the love of God. And in that moment, like, I had a spiritual awakening that came up to me with so much gratitude, so much thankfulness, because a little bit of my background, I came from a life of alcohol and addiction, and it just to think, I never was able to like thank my higher power, which who I call God today. And I was never able to like give him that gratitude. I do my prayers every morning and say thank you for having me where I'm at today. Thank you for your grace and mercy. But something was about when I sow in tears, and when I was in tears, like it was just a gratitude. And the thing about it, the room was so quiet, and I never like really like shouted my gratitude in that. Like it was like almost like a mother weeping for her child, but it was me weeping in gratitude for where God has me in this position where I'm at today, and from where I was to where I'm at now. And there was like a wave that hit me. It was not like a literal wave, but like it was a spiritual energy that hit me to where it pierced the whole room, and
Hmm.
everyone in the room started erupting in gratitude and there was, they were speaking in tongues in there. The pastor who was there started prophesizing over me, and I didn't understand what was going on, and it was a feeling. I was feeling hot at one moment, and then when he was done with his prayers over me and prophesizing over me, and then my body started to cool down. But then I took this story and I put it in. I did use ChatGPT. I put it in and I described it as a voice memo, and it led me to, and it told me that you're describing what exactly happened in a chapter called Acts, and it's called the upper room. And it's
Hmm.
funny because this is called the prayer room.
Hmm.
And in that room, in the upper room, it starts talking about more in depth how God uses certain individuals to touch the community around those people. And it's like he pierced my heart to touch other people around, and that's what happened. And it's like it's a surreal story. I mean, you had to be there to experience it, but it was a surreal experience for me that I'll never let go. And I feel like at that moment God is using me today to touch other people's in the green industry and in my community, to bring that faith, to bring God into our businesses, in our relationship with our customers, not to go around to push any type of, a faith aspect onto people, but to more of be like, we're here, we're community, we're here for each other.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that sounds like a great weekend there. And I mean, on my
Yeah.
own journey, it's just when we yield to God, when we're in right standing with God, we're not getting drunk like you mentioned, the alcoholism. There's not sexual morality where if you have a wife, you need to be faithful to her. If you don't have a wife, you need to be pure with your body. And when we live lives that are holy and in right standing with God, we yield to God. Then we can serve our customers better. Then we can serve our team better. We have such a responsibility as small business owners to, well, first of all, if you have a team, to your employees, because they probably have families that's counting on them as well. So we have a responsibility to them. We have definitely a responsibility to our customers. We need to serve them at the highest level, and the responsibilities go out from there. But by us yielding our life to God and living right and living clean and being, people of integrity and gratitude and all of that, it's gonna help all the other people around us when we have it together. So you mentioned that you used to struggle with alcohol and things of that nature. Tell us a little bit about how you um, got free from that, or the journey. I'm not sure if you're still throwing back some booze after work or if you're completely free, but how's your journey going with that? Because I know it's a big issue in
Yeah.
this industry. You have a long day, you're stressed out, and it's a solution to the immediate stress of your customers and your team, and it's hot where most people are in the summer, and it's
Mhm.
like, I'll just go have a little drinky drink and
Yeah.
try to forget about all this responsibility. What's your story?
I love that you mentioned that. At the age of 13 is when I first had my first drink. And actually, that moment too is when I'm an overdoer. I want more, more, more. So it was not something like chill and drink. There's no chilling for me. I'm overdoing it. And at 13, I had my first drink, and I was alcohol poisoned. I had to go to the hospital, and that happened at 13. And that's where I realized that, not at that point, at that age I realized, but I that's where I wanted more. And it continued to gradually, that self-obsession to have more and more and more continued to grow. I started smoking weed, I started drinking more, started having relationships with women that were not intentional, no marriage, having sex out of wedlock and all that stuff. By means, I'm no perfect guy. I'm not, I don't have it all made out today, but what I do know is that I have a sense of awareness, is that of the choices that I'm making, this conscious choices that I'm making. But and from 13 and going to high school and still being in the lawn care business, is like you said, after I'm done after a day of work, I was packing 24 packs of drinks. Sometimes it was just one, sometimes it was just six. But I was only just filling in with those drinks. I was just filling in a void, not getting connection with my inner self.
Hmm.
And that's what some of the things that I was constantly doing. It's sometimes like today, even though alcohol doesn't show up in my life today. I've been clean for 4.5 years now from any wet or dry substances that can manipulate my mind. Even in today with the phone, that's another type of thing that I can go to strolling, I could go to, and other things that are just filling in a void. And there's times where I ask myself, like, where is this void coming from? And it could go stemming back to my childhood years, to where, from being with my parents and always wanted some type of attention from them, and leading to those things. So I go back to those voids and I understand what's going on. And now it's like having a better relationship with God. So now it's like when I see myself doing these things, it's like we got to put the phone down. We got to open the book, which I like to read the Bible. Or the one book I'm in right now is The Power of Now. And I just literally started reading that. And those are some things that I use to not go into the complete scrolling, to not wanting to have a drink. But one of the powerful things that I have in my life today is community. So
Hmm.
it's like whenever I do want to have a drink, or whenever I feel like, even it could be a long time ago, I'm being total vulnerable here, because there's somebody out there that I'm going to be helping. I know there's someone that's watching this that's going to be helping. And there's times where it'll be from drinks to strip clubs, having that connection with women in there, and doing those type of things. And if I ever have those thoughts come my head, I have a mentor, I have someone that I can talk to and just be like, hey, this is on my mind, this is what's going on. Because deep down inside, we don't have it perfect. And little that I knew, it was ruining my business, the way I was running it. And I was not being of service. I was only being of service to myself. Even things were going good at one point. Things were going really good while I was still doing bad. And even today, it's like, wow, like how things could go so good even while I'm doing so bad. But I understood that the enemy, the opposition, will tempt me with things to go ahead and drift me away from my primary purpose with God, into serving people. It was like almost a manipulation, like, hey, I'm going to give you the money. I'm going to give you the business. I'm going to give you everything because, for me, the devil, who I call the opposition, that's for me, in my experience, is that he will give me things that he knows that could distract me from having a relationship with God. But today that's different. Now it's like stewarding the things that I have. I know how to steward my money. I know how to steward my relationships. And that's where I'm at today, with like that's the gradual thing from addiction to where I was. I do attend like Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and I'm still heavy in there as well from business. I never separate my business from my primary purpose.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's good. I go to Myron Golden's studio on a couple days a week, and he talks about yielding to God, and serving people. Is
Hmm.
the kind of, you got those two things in line, everything else in your life's gonna fall into place. You're yielded to God, meaning you're not going to the strip club, you're not, getting a little drinky drink or whatever,
Hmm.
puffy puff, but you're living right before God, and then you're serving people, because we were created to serve people. Whether you're doing a landscape design, you're mowing someone's grass, you're installing plants, like we weren't created just for selfish, making it rain at the club. We were made
Sure.
to serve customers and serve people and serve them well. So that's when we're on our mission, and that's where we're on our assignment. And there's so many men out there who are scrolling on things they shouldn't be looking at on the internet, and they're just um they don't know their assignment, they don't know their purpose. And when you don't know your assignment and you don't know your purpose, you just get distracted by all these things that will um you know destroy your life. Ultimately, the wages of sin is death. If you mess
Hmm.
around with sin, it's going to destroy your relationships, it's going to destroy your finances, it's going to destroy your life in a matter of time. But anyway, that was a cool watching your transformation on Instagram. There was really inspiring, and listening to you and Willie and Eddie kind of talk about spiritual things that really pushed me to make sure I'm living right, make sure I'm getting it together. So it
Yes.
was motivating. And I'm referencing the Plant Movement podcast with my friend Willie Rodriguez. You were a guest on there, and a great conversation you guys had. But In regards to Boca Landscapes, tell us the story. I know you've been at this for a while and had some pivots and turns and plot twists along your journey, but go ahead and share how you got into the green industry and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, well, in the green industry, I started with a weed eater and a lawnmower through my baseball coach at at 13 years old, 12 years old. I was playing on a baseball team. And like I mentioned on the podcast, I had a girl that I was dating at that time, and the access to funds weren't there with my family. So, he's seen my hustle, he's seen my baseball coach, and if he's still living, shout out to Burke Ackright. And he gave me an opportunity. He said, "Hey, you want to come work for the summer?" I was like, "Let's do it." And he was paying me like $4 or $5 an hour at that time, and I just started doing that for a while, and it was repetition and repetition. And we were on commercial properties. We were cutting Gunther Volkswagen, and then from there I continued, and I ended up working for U.S. Lawns. U.S. Lawns is a franchise business all over the United States, and I was a top foreman in there. I won Diamond Awards there, and I was controlling up to 20 to 30 guys on hospitals and at hospitals while we were coordinating to do the shrubs, irrigation, all that stuff. And one big turning point was that working for a certain company, they were calling me family. They were calling me family. And then I got hurt on the job. And then when that happened, they said, "You got to go home." And I was like, "Can I get like light duty work or something?" And they were telling me, "No, you can't have it." And they were like, "You're just going to have to get over what's going on with you and then come back." And really, I was supposed to get light duty work, but that didn't work out. And I'm very thankful for that injury at that commercial job, that commercial companies, because that's when I was like, I had a fed up. I was fed up. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to make this happen. And so eventually, it was some months down the line until I finally took action to start my company. And, through the grace of God, with the woman who I was with at that time, she believed in me, and she was like, "Listen, we were having a kid at that time." And she was like, "Listen, I believe in you." And she was able to help me with the trailer, the mower, and all that stuff. And that's how everything just began from there. Yep, that's how everything just began from there. And I started doing all the Costco's, which I still have now. I do some of the Costco's in the Southeast region. And also now I got into landscape designing, which
Mhm.
I really like about is landscape designing after watching, through Instagram, being motivated to seeing all these jobs being done, and the creativity that they just have in these on you see on Instagram. It's like motivating, and I was like, I gotta try that. And that's where I'm at now with the landscape design.
Okay. So Costco, that's a huge commercial property. Are you doing their like mulch and flowers and mowing, or like what when you say you're taking care of Costco? And I know they all kind of are shaped differently because Costco just purchases whatever land they can get for their property. So
Yes.
it's not like cookie cutter, but what do you do to serve Costco?
So there's multiple things I haven't mentioned either that I serve, not just grass, but we also do the pressure cleaning there.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. So yeah, we do flower beds if they need any projects, doing the landscaping, the trees, the mulching, the irrigation. We do the full nine there. And I got into it was weird how I got in pressure cleaning. They just told me because they just want to deal with me.
Mhm.
And I don't have that listed as a service thing on my business, but they were like, could you do pressure cleaning? And I did some background about it, and I was like, there's some good numbers in that. And I shot it to them, and they said, yeah. And it's one thing I don't like to say is no when it comes to those type of jobs. And I figured it out, and now we do that. So we do the landscaping, and we do the pressure cleaning.
Okay, so are you pressure washing their building or the parking lot, or what exactly are
Uh,
you cleaning?
So all of these sidewalks and
Mhm.
anything up from 8 feet up the ground, any cracks and crevices, any gum that's sticking on the ground, we have all that. And I have a hot water pressure cleaner, so that was like a game changer. It's just like and it takes one man to do all of this, and it's pretty good meat on the bone. I never thought pressure washing would have that much in commercial pressure washing. I don't know about residential, but commercial pressure washing has been a good effect on us.
Okay. And then how do they pay you? Like, is it net 30, net 60, net 90? I know a lot of commercial jobs, especially for bigger companies, they can stretch it out there. How have you been able to negotiate terms or whatnot, whatever you're able to share?
Yeah, so I hear they're different between every other contractor, but since I built such a solid relationship with them, they don't email my checks, they don't pay by card. One thing I always do is pick up my checks in person.
Okay.
So they can always see my face, and I always come in there and they remember me every month. But that's net 30. Every
Oh,
time net
wow.
30. Yeah,
Okay.
net 30. Yep.
So that ain't bad. And then you're doing, um, is it a regular invoice? Because if you're doing flowers, I don't know South Florida as well as I'm on the other side up by Tampa, but I don't exactly know how frequently you're swapping out flowers and stuff like that. So do you just have a different amount you're invoicing them every month, or?
Yeah, it's pretty consistent. They're not too big about like flowers. Costco definitely wants something that's going to be sustainable all year long.
Mhm.
But the one thing that does come up all the time where the months can go from $10,000 a month to a $60,000 month, just like that. And
Mhm.
that's when CEOs come down. When
Oh,
CEOs and these people come down, it is like they are willing to do whatever, whenever. They don't care how much it costs. Is send me the bill.
wow.
Yeah,
What do they
and
want you to do to spruce up Costco for when Mr. CEO comes to the building?
And check this out. That's a good question because I could put down mulch 2 months ago, and you know how the red can fade? They'll like redo all the mulch,
Mhm.
redo it. They want everything to be pristine,
Mhm.
pristine. And there's times where they hire us to do even the garbage picking that day just to have a lot guy just there to just be on the property the whole day to make sure garbage is not there.
So they know what day Mr. CEO is coming.
They know when CEOs come in. When they say jump, I say how high. And you
Mhm.
got to be prepared to have everyone and ready to go. I mean, from trimming to mulching to blowing off the whole property, and that's when I look forward to those months.
Mhm. Yeah, $60,000 a month. I'll take that. That's solid. Now, how many team members do you have, and how are you able to get all this work done?
Well, I'm glad you asked that too. I have up to 3 team members, and there's times where we go overnight on things.
Mhm.
There's times where I do a lot myself. I do a lot of the tree cutting. There's times where I have to step in. But, I'm thankful to have like my other friends too. Like they step in too. If it's like I have multiple Costco's going at one time, I start sending their companies out there to do one of the Costco's while I'm doing this Costco in this area, whether it's in West Palm Beach and then I'm back in Miami, and we're
Mhm.
just knocking out all these Costco's at one time. Yeah.
How many Costcos do you serve?
Right now, I believe it's there's six right now.
Wow.
Six. Yeah.
Keeps you busy. And then in addition to that, I mean, that's stressing me out right there, just thinking about 6 Costcos. But what else do you guys do?
Well, from there, we're stepping back into the commercial landscaping. The commercial landscape, we're stepping back into that. I actually just had a talk today with a potential partner that wants to step into the commercial landscape. I kind of veered from the commercial landscape a little bit, and I've been digging deep with landscape design, but commercial landscape is something we're getting back into now.
Okay.
Yes.
And I know you said you had watched Instagram and got inspired by folks who were doing designs and everything. So how did you go from kind of more of a basic maintenance that's, anyone can kind of figure out how to mow a yard or trim up a bush or whatever, but how did you figure out how to do installs, and what exactly are you installing? But how did you like develop that skill? Because it takes intentionality to do that the right way.
Yes, yes. So definitely I had to take myself out the driver's seat and ask other people for help. I had to contact my friends, who are in landscape design, had to go through them. But one big one was Imagine Design and Build.
Hmm.
I went up there if you look at him, shout out to Kelly, he's the founder of Imagine Design and Build. Really good guy. He's out of Detroit, Michigan. I'm sure everyone's seen him on Instagram with all his crazy backyard renovations. And I had to hire a mentor. And going there to see what he did to close out his projects and why he does what he does, and just picking his brain, just being there, being in the proximity of these people. We could watch it all day through Instagram, but once you're in the proximity, like side by side, elbow to elbow with these people, a lot of stuff started shifting for me, from the way my creativity, new ideas started flowing. So anyone out there that wants to get in design, try. One thing I always seen that guy on Instagram, I was like, I'm gonna be by him one day. And of course he had a mentorship, and I paid for it. I had to pay for it. Don't be scared to pay for mentorships. And my mentor spent millions getting elbow to elbow with some of the top performers in the world.
Hmm.
And for me, that didn't make sense. I was like, why I need this person, why I need, but I just had to pay. And it was a breakthrough started happening once I started getting the proximity of those people, because I value their time. Their time is very valuable, and they expect to be compensated. So, and that's how I was able to get more deep intentional with the design, being focused on that niche and being around other people who are in that niche as well. Community.
Yeah, that's good. Now, how'd you get connected with Willie and A's Ornamental?
Oh, well, Willie, I known him for I don't know how many years I known him, but I believe in divine connection, especially divine connection. And we used to talk back and forth. I bought some supplies from a long time ago there, and it's just that divine connection that came in. And I feel like even though we weren't speaking to each other, like during certain moments, because he was busy on his work, I was busy on my work, I feel like spiritually we were still connected in a way. Like when we seen each other that day when I went on his podcast, I felt like we never skipped a beat. I felt like the 4 years or 3 years we never seen each other, it was like, wow, it was just like that. We started connecting, and that's what happened when spirits connect, that divine connection sets in. But that's how I met him specifically. I believe, I think I was at another event. It was either an event or online, one of those two.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Yeah, I enjoyed listening to your podcast with him. What's your advice? We have a lot of folks listening who are newer into the industry. They find our podcast and they're trying to just devour as much information as they can and avoid the common pitfalls of charging too low, of hiring the wrong guys, and all the same mistakes, the lack of route density.
Mhm.
What's kind of your advice to someone who's in the newer stages of a lawn care landscaping business that you wish someone would have told you when you were kind of a younger business owner?
Number one is that if you're starting in the lawn business, is to close the radius. Being a 10-mile radius, and hone in that radius like if there's no tomorrow.
Mhm.
I wouldn't recommend, like for instance, I'm in Broward. And let's say if you're in Coral Springs, I would hone down in Coral Springs. I wouldn't go from Coral Springs to 20 miles away, or go to West Palm Beach. And that's what I used to do. I used to go to Miami, West Palm Beach, wherever it was at, $50 here, $40 there. And I didn't like that UPS thing. I didn't have the benefits of UPS either. So it's like, and when I realized, man, all my accounts eventually gradually started to climb. I climbed up to like 50 accounts, but each account was less than a minute away.
Mm,
Literally less than a minute. So I was banging them out. And I was like, this is what I needed to do.
mhm,
And I actually heard that from someone else on a podcast. And they
mhm,
were like, hey, hone in on the radius.
mhm.
Just hone on your area. And sometimes the grass ain't good where you at, but If you want to go maybe 20 minutes away to maybe somewhere like Boca, then hone in that radius. Hone
Mhm.
in that money radius and just hone on it. That's what I would say. And another thing is that, being in business in beginning, you're gonna not see money. You're not gonna, you maybe will see money, but you're not gonna see money, but you have to keep the faith. Don't let self-doubt drive you out. Don't let your past pretenses drive you out to where you want to be. Keep going. You're gonna have people saying, "Oh, you're still doing that business." You're gonna have people saying that, "Oh, he's a landscaper." I had people thought I was a bum because I was so, I don't want to say bum. Let me not say that. I had people say I was homeless because I was dirty, like extremely dirty, and they were trying to hand me bread, and I was like, nah. And then they realized, like, oh, that's the guy that works for Costco.
Mhm.
And then they knew, like, yeah, that guy makes a little something. But, don't let your appearance, don't let the people around you convince you otherwise. This is your dream. This is what you want to do. And it's basically to serve people. Don't go in there thinking about how much I can make for a job. That's the mistake I did. I went in there trying to make $1 million out of a $500 job. Be there to serve people, and that's why you're here. Serve people to the utmost ability. And sometimes you have to sacrifice yourself. Some things in your heart, if it says, "Hey, this lady can't afford me, but it's gonna take me 20 minutes to cut her grass. She can't afford me, but let me just be a service to her." And that's it. And you don't have to publicize it either. Keep that between you and God, and just do it. Whatever in your heart, just do it. But don't lack faith. Try not to lack faith. Don't let self-doubt drive you away from your business.
That's good. Well, thanks for the advice. Is there anything we're leaving out here that needs addressed, or anything else you want to impart to lawn care and landscape business owners?
Um, Community. I know we spoke about it, but community is so important. A faith-driven community, not just about scaling. If you're looking to scaling first, you can have all the money, you can have everything, but once you lack faith in everything and you lose everything, it's a different, you're calling on something different. But I would say lock into a community of faith with landscapers, your community church. Find a group of men in your neighborhood, get together. Don't be scared to talk to the landscaper that's up the street, and just say, "Hey, what's up? I see we're on the same street, but I see your work. We do good work. I just want to exchange numbers." And that's what I do today.
Mhm.
And I never thought community would be so important, but community is what drove my business to where it's at today. Community.
So good.
And keep God first. And keep God first. Whatever you do, even if your belief is not totally there to surrender, not there. I was there too. There's days where I don't want to surrender certain things, but keep God first in everything that you do, no matter what. No matter what, keep God first.
That's so good. Well, thank you so much for your time. I got a beard trim and a haircut coming up here. Hot
Go get
shave.
that beard trim. Hot shit.
Yeah, and my barber is on point too, so I'm really looking forward to it. But how can people connect with you on Instagram, or wherever you want them to connect you with? Where do you post, and if somebody wants to shoot you a DM or whatnot, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, so great. So Instagram, Boca Landscape Designs, or my email, just ask bocalandscapes@gmail.com. But I answer a lot on Instagram. You can find me on there if you have any questions or if any help, shoot me the questions. I'm not that type of guy that looks over it, keeps you on scene. I know how it is to be out here on your own, or if you're just a performer that's up there that just wants to like ask me any questions, or you just simply want to connect, because we also have an event coming down. It's on August 2nd, and it's to be in Pembroke Pines. It's a landscape leadership summit 2025. We're having some high performers in there, mowing to millions. A guy in there went from one lawnmower to now making millions of dollars as well, and how faith driven his business and personal development, leadership, social media content speaker. And we're going to have myself there as well. How can I scale your business with not only just faith, but how can I add an extra revenue building with just retainer walls?
Cool, cool. Well, thanks so much taking time out of your
Hey,
busy day, and it's great to connect. And I'm hoping. I've never actually been to your neck of the woods, Miami, South, just down there. Boca.
Yeah.
I honestly don't even know. Is Boca just a little north of Miami, or
Yeah, it's north of Miami. Just bring your wallet.
that's what? Yeah. So that's what I think. Like I've seen the movies, I've seen the stuff. I'm kind of intimidated, but I know Willie and Eddie. Never met them in person, but we've communicated many of times online. And then the Miami landscaper, I've been following Paul Capote for a long time online.
He's
So
a
I feel
cool
like,
guy.
yeah, so I feel like if I come down, I could create a bunch of great content, like some shop tours and do some podcasting and everything. So I'll definitely give you a heads up. I've been thinking about it for years. I'm like, I'm gonna go down to Miami and try to
Come down.
meet up with Willie and Eddie and Paul and you now, and maybe we can do
If
some
you're not
content.
doing nothing, August 2nd, come on down. They're gonna be there. I know Paul's gonna be there. Some of the
Oh, great.
community people will be there, and it'll
Well,
be amazing.
yeah,
We're your tribe.
what day of the week is that going to be?
It's gonna be on a Saturday from 6 to 9 p.m.
Saturday,
Yes, from
6 to
6 to
9
9.
p.m. And then if I'm going to stay the night and drive back on Sunday, where's a safe place? Because I've just seen the movies. Miami always scared me. I feel like it's like crime ridden or something. And maybe that's
No,
taking me away.
it's actually, I believe there's a Hilton right up the street. Actually,
Okay.
yeah, I believe there's a Hill. I'll send you all the details and stuff on your DM of like the location and stuff like. But there's a hotel right up the street from there. It's in
Okay.
Pembroke Pines, though. Very nice
And
neighborhood.
is Willie and Eddie going to that, or just Paul Miami Landscaper?
Yeah, they haven't confirmed yet. They were going, but there's some farmers that are going. A lot of local landscapers that will be going. Right now, there's already, I think, 60 people confirmed, and I invited a couple of other people as well. So it's going to be a good amount of people there. Hopefully not overcrowded, but it's a good venue. Free
Yeah.
food too.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for your time. I got to head down to the barber shop and
All
get
right.
looking fresh, but I appreciate your time and it's great
Hey,
connecting.
thank you, man.
Cool. Have
All
a
right,
good one.
have a good one. All
You
right,
too.
peace.
Later. Bye.